Welcome, everyone, to this month's episode of Recovery Rockstar. My name is Melinda White. I am a person in long-term recovery. What that means to me is that I haven't had to use alcohol or drugs since December 28, 2011. That is such a blessing for me. I love the new lifestyle I have, which is a lifestyle of love versus a lifestyle in active addiction. And all of the thanks goes to the people who helped me through this path and to continue to stay on this journey, and also the people that I'm able to help in my journey today. I want to throw in a plug, as always, for Narcan, also known as naloxone overdose kits. If you don't have a kit, it is critical to have one. It's better to have a kit and not need it than to need it and not have it. And they are readily available at any of the pilot sites across Vermont. In Franklin County, there are multiple pilot sites. Feel free to look at the Vermont Health Department's website as well as the Franklin County Turning Point's website to find a site close to you. I also want to highlight an upcoming event in Franklin County. It is going to be the first of St. Albans Recovery Block Party. So September is Recovery Month. We celebrate across the state, across the United States, and locally in St. Albans, we are going to be having an event called the Recovery Block Party. That is on Saturday, September 3rd from 11 a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. It will be on Lake Street at the Food City Green. There's going to be vendors, free food, live music, and most importantly, we're going to have recovery speakers share their journey. So we invite the community to come out to that. And at this point, I'm going to welcome my beautiful guest, Hillary Miner, who I'm so excited to be able to interview. I've been wanting to interview Hillary for a while, and we're both very busy bees, so it's taken time to connect, but we're finally able to do a show together. So thank you for coming, Hillary.
Thank you for having me, Melinda.
So tell me a little bit, Hillary, about where you grew up and what your childhood kind of looked like.
I grew up here in Franklin County, Vermont. I am one of 4 children. I grew up with my siblings very close together. We were always doing everything together. My mom owns a business. My stepfather owned a business. My real father, we were always visiting him every chance we got. I actually moved in with him when I was old enough to make the decision to do so. Yeah.
So it sounds like you're definitely family oriented, very close to your family. And of course, I mention often, I remember meeting your mom years ago and always having loved her. I just think she's an angel. So tell me a little bit about what did it look like the first time you saw alcohol or drugs or any kind of substances? What was your first experience of witnessing that?
Well, it was in my family for years. Growing up, my stepfather, my father, both alcoholics. So I was always around alcohol. Never really like hard drugs. I never really saw that until I got older. And then I lost my stepmom at 15. She was very close to me, and I kind of just gave up and didn't really care, wanted to see what the fun kick was that everybody was doing. So that's when I started using, started drinking, started partying. And
it's interesting too, because I've interviewed a lot of people, and of course being in recovery myself, sometimes people are just wanting to experiment, but many other times a person identifies some kind of a trauma related, right, to why wanting to self-medicate was even there, right, even present. So it sounds like, that's a huge loss to have happen at such a young age. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you started experimenting a little bit. And what did that look like for you?
I started off smoking, and then I would drink, and then my boyfriend at the time, his father was prescribed painkillers, so then I started using painkillers, and then I stopped doing the harder stuff and was drinking, and then I got back into the harder stuff, but it was harder to find. The pills were harder to find, so that's when I started using heroin, and I really stopped drinking and just mainly focused on my drug addictions.
Right. And it sounds like your drug of choice ended up becoming opioids, specifically heroin.
Yeah.
And that's another common thing too that I've seen and learned myself was, pills were everywhere at one point in time, and all of a sudden prescribing laws changed, availability changed, and then people go to heroin, and we know that can definitely create higher potential for overdose. So when you started experiencing trouble with your addiction, what did that look like? What made you realize like this is kind of a problem now?
I got in trouble with the law. I really needed to take a step back and look at like, okay, this isn't working anymore. I need to do something. So that was actually when I met you. And I went into outpatient treatment. I did IOP, and that it worked for me for a small amount of time, but I wasn't doing everything I needed to do. I wasn't changing my friends, my places.
Yeah,
people,
people, places, and things.
People, places, things. I wasn't changing all of it. I was only doing a small part of the work. And I ended up switching my drug of choice. Yeah. So to me, that wasn't a problem because I wasn't using heroin as often as I used to. Mm-hmm. And so for years, I switched my drug of choice. And yeah.
So that's also a very common story where, and I can relate to it myself, where we're using and abusing maybe one substance, and then it creates enough issue that we try something else. And it's, I refer to it as trading seats on the Titanic, where it's like, well, it's not as bad, but it's still taking us in a different direction, right? In a negative direction. But let me back up a little bit, because you said, so externally you had gotten in trouble. Internally, though, did you feel like you were losing yourself before you finally asked for help?
Not at that point, I didn't.
You didn't? Okay.
No, not at that point. I didn't feel, like I knew it was wrong, and I knew that I needed to do better. Mm-hmm. But at that point, I didn't honestly feel like I deserved better. I felt like I'm going to do what I can, and whatever happens, happens, I guess, kind of thing. Right. It wasn't until a few years later, that's when I really felt internally like, okay, this isn't working anymore. I need to fix this.
So you had gotten some support. You said that you had done an outpatient program, gotten some support, and felt like you kind of got on a beam. Then you picked up a different drug of choice. And what did it look like when you realized, what, this is still a problem? Like, how did you feel?
Honestly, I just remember having nothing. I was going to work every day just to support my drug habit. I had nothing, and that I pushed my family away. I didn't see anybody. I didn't do anything except for just see drugs. And it was either I'm going to die doing this. I wasn't eating for like days on end. And if I was, I would take like 3 bites and be done because I was so messed up on the drugs, wasn't sleeping. We weren't paying rent. It was bad. It was, we decided that enough was enough. I decided enough was enough. And then my spouse ended up going with me to rehab.
So you went to a residential program?
Yes.
Nice. And what did that look like? Was it in Vermont?
It was here in Vermont. I was scared. I was really scared. And one thing that my mom said to me that will always stick with me is like, nothing can be scarier than the hell that you're living in now. And that's so true. Like the hell I was living in, I've yet to find anything scarier than that.
Yeah.
So I did it. I called my mom for help one day. I was walking to work and I just started crying and I was like, I'm done. Wow. So I called my mom and I said, I need help. I can't do this on my own. And she hasn't left my side ever since.
That's amazing. I love that when I hear sometimes people will say, well, how did you do it? In my one liner, if I have to sum it up in one line, it's the power of a praying mom. It's amazing how having that family support can make all the difference. So you got to a place where you finally had enough. It sounds like you had enough inside and on the outside. And tell me a little bit about when you had gone to treatment. Were there things that stood out that you felt like, goodness, that seems helpful, I want to keep doing it? Or what were some things that were helpful for you there?
There's a lot of things that were really helpful. They introduced me to 12 steps. So I started working the steps there. I got out, I got a sponsor, and I actually started working the work.
Yeah.
And go figure it works.
I love it.
Yeah, so I every day is a struggle, but I know that it's nothing like it used to be. So
I love how you mentioned that too, how your mom had said nothing can be scarier than the way you were living before. And I recall thinking that a few times because I went to a number of different treatment centers and one of them was pretty strict. But I would stop and think, this is not nearly as hard as the life I had before. And when we remember what it was like before, it makes the work to be in recovery so much easier to accept. What does it look like? So you mentioned it's a daily struggle, right? I can
yes.
identify with that too. What are some of the things that you do if you feel like you're struggling and your stress levels going up and the idea of like, oh, I just want to escape? What are some of the tools that you use?
Well, my big thing is it doesn't have to be all day, every day. It can be 1 minute at a time. If I can get past this 1 minute, then I can get on to the next 5 minutes and I'll be okay. So if I ever have a craving or something like that, then I just kind of get myself through those few minutes, get my mind onto something different. I work a lot, so my mind's always super, super busy and like I don't have time to think about, you know.
Right.
So I'm a workaholic, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's healthy or not, but
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people will replace, right? Like we said, we go through replacing different substances and then we get in recovery and there's still that potential for addiction. The upside is that you won't overdose on working too much unless it's straining from day to day to day. But, and similar with, whether it's food, money, sugar, whatever it is. But the nice thing is that we find balance over time. And I also remember going through that phase, and I also had a sponsor and she would help me look at, okay, you're kind of overdoing this. So how can we get work in balance? And then exercise, I was obsessed with that, Ben and Jerry's, so it's like one of those things where I think it's everybody to some degree has different things that we work on, right? The rest of our lives. And I think for people like us, it's knowing like, no, there's nothing I can't get through as long as I don't pick up. So do you feel like you have a safe, supportive network of people?
Oh, absolutely.
You do?
Absolutely.
And how important is that for you in your recovery?
That's huge in my recovery. I know that like if I say I can't get through that first 5 minutes in the craving, I know I can call my support team and let them know like, hey, something's going on. I'm having a rough day. Like, can we just talk? And it'll be okay. Like my support team will be there for me no matter what. I don't ever want to disappoint them. So
yeah. And I love how you're highlighting what we hear a lot in the clinical and recovery world, which is the opposite of addiction is connection. And when people have those safe, supportive connections, they're that much more likely to be able to be not only successful in recovery, right? Because it's not just about like putting down substances. Nobody wants to get clean and sober to be bored, right? Or to have a miserable life. So it's about being able to thrive. And I mean, we're in a small community and I've just watched you over the years and you have just blown me away because you continue to thrive and shine. And one of the questions that I was excited to ask you, knowing that I was going to be interviewing you, is do you ever find that people come to you and kind of ask you like, how did you do it? Or
actually, I do. I've had quite a few people since I've gotten clean and sober. I've had quite a few people come up to me and ask questions. I've gotten messages on Facebook. People just reaching out for help. How do they do it? I've also reached out to people that I know are still using, like, hey, I'm here. If you're ever looking for help, I'm here. Like, that door is open. I try to not open that door a lot because I don't want to put myself in a situation to open those doors again.
Right.
But I do still care about people using. I want everybody to find recovery because it is out there and it's the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced in my life.
And I love that. And what would you say are some of the things in your life today that you wouldn't have if you were still struggling in active addiction?
Oh my gosh. Well, first off, my job. I've been there almost 3 years. My car. I have a beautiful car. I love my car so much. My fiance, we put each other through hell and back. We were toxic together and we made it out alive.
And together still.
I have my family back. I get to watch my niece and my nephews grow, and that's the best part about all of this is like I'm clean and sober, and I get to be a part of my niece and nephew's lives. And before, like I said, I just pushed my whole family away, so I didn't want them to see me how I was. So I just
Right. And did you ever have, it's interesting just to flip back a little bit in those days of active use, did you feel, it sounds like you kind of hid from your family too, which is pretty common for a lot of people struggling with use. And is it almost that feeling of like, well, I'm not worthy to be in this family?
Oh, absolutely.
And how does that feel now and today?
I feel more than worthy of being in my family. I love them so much. I wouldn't be where I am without them. They really have stuck by my side. They took my dogs when we went to rehab, and they really have helped me tremendously. And I feel like I cling to them now more than ever.
Right, and appreciate them.
Absolutely.
And would you say one of the things that I know a lot of people struggle with, and yet I have a feeling you've learned this piece too, is that self-forgiveness. Like, how does somebody learn to accept and forgive themselves and know, like, you're valuable, you're loved, you're worth it? What for you was something that helped you realize, like, actually, yeah, I am worth?
I don't really know what that was for me. I mean, my family had a big piece of it. I mean, I couldn't be without them. They couldn't be without me. And it just really scared me. So I feel like that was a big part of me realizing, like, okay, without their help, I don't think I would have realized that I am worthy.
Right. And it sounds like you're very motivated by your family today, right? Like to be there for you said your nieces and nephews?
Yeah.
How many do you have?
I have 1 niece and 3 nephews.
Amazing. So one of those like fun questions, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, eventually, I mean, I want to buy a house. So my next goal is in 3 to 5 years, we're going to get a house.
Exciting.
I would love to eventually become like a drug and alcohol counselor or something like that to just help people get out of where I came from, you know?
Right. I love that too, that you bring that up, because of course for me it's like, oh my gosh, she would be so amazing. And it gives me a chance too to do just a mini plug that Recovery Vermont does trainings for their Recovery Coach Academy.
Oh, cool.
And that training they do it periodically. Scholarships are often available through the recovery centers, but such a great way to learn the different pathways of recovery and to be able to support people. Some people do recovery through abstinence. Some people do recovery through a combination of medication and clinical counseling, some through faith. So in your regular life today, are there any certain things that you've implemented that are kind of like, this is what I do for my recovery? Is there like anything, like whether it's daily readings, or do you do 12-step, or do you like, what in your life do you think is most helpful to keep you plugged in?
I am on MAT, so that is really helpful. I'm tapering, so I'm going down on it, which is awesome. I do the 12 steps, so I do the meetings and stuff like that. And besides work, I mean, I really do what I can, but I could be doing more.
But that sounds like you're pretty well balanced though, right? So you're connected with the recovery community, you're connected with clinical, and then through your job, and I'm sure Facebook too, like you said, people reach out, and you'll probably continue to see that. That's one of the reasons that even with this show, I love having people on the show. So oftentimes viewers may not think that they can recover, and they might think, well, my situation is different. And, and just being able to see that we're open about being people in recovery. We believe that others can recover, and knowing where to go and how to do it is key. Do you go to the recovery center? Have you ever gone there before?
I haven't actually.
To the Turning Point Recovery
Center?
Center?
The Turning Point.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was So that's a great community too, right?
Yeah, we love Turning Center. The Turning Point, we love it there. We were trying to do 90 and 90, but in Franklin County it was really hard at the beginning because we didn't have all the meetings. So that was kind of our our meeting place was the Turning Center, the Turning Point. We hung out there a lot in the beginning of our recovery.
And that's so huge. That a lot of people that I interview talk about that, being able to go to a recovery center where we're surrounded by peers, right? So there's like no fear of judgment. We've all, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. And it's not even about it. The past isn't what matters, right? It's about where are we today? What's going on in our lives? And if it's something stressful, how do I get through it without picking up again?
Right.
So I love that you're involved with that too. And I have this vision because I know you are a rock star. You have been already, and you're going to continue shining. And I just envision you're going to be helping so many people. And even just by being you, right? Like just being you. People go to your place of work, probably it's a public place, and they're like, look at how amazing she looks. How is she doing it? And those questions come, and it's all about, we work a lifestyle of love. So what would you want to give viewers for a message? If there's somebody that is out here watching this show and thinking, there's no help for me, what would you want to tell them?
There is help out there. I thought the same thing because of who I was. My mom had a business, and I didn't want my name to be out there, and I didn't want to be in trouble. And there is help out there. It doesn't matter who you are. Addiction can affect everybody and anybody, and it doesn't care who it affects.
Yeah.
And there is help out there, so definitely reach out for the help.
Love it. And that's something we often try to encourage people is, take advantage of the resources out there. And sometimes people don't know what they are. And that's why I continue to plug, there's Howard Center, there's the Turning Point in Franklin County, there's recovery centers across the state. There's so many options for people to not only to get help, but to continue doing that work and in turn helping others. And that's what we learn, right? By helping other people, that's how we keep it. Absolutely. And I know I have found in answering questions on, here's some suggestions. Those are reminders to myself, and they keep me strong. So I want to thank you so much, Hillary, for coming on the show. I am so proud of you. I'm so excited for you. And like I said, I can just see like amazing things are going to continue happening. You're one of those people that I know, like I know my own name, I'm going to want to have back on and say, okay, where are they now? Like, let's see how she's doing. But I just want to thank you for coming on Recovery Rockstar. I want to thank all of the viewers for watching this episode of Recovery Rockstar. And just again, a reminder to contact your local recovery center if you need help. There's so many resources out there, and you aren't alone. We have so many people in the rooms of recovery that want to just love you until you can love yourself and to show you the way. And I also want to throw in one more plug for the Recovery Block Party that's going to be taking place on Saturday, September 3rd. On Lake Street in St. Albans at the Food City Green from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Come and have free food, free entertainment, games, and most importantly, listen to a slew of recovery speakers. And until next time, thank you for watching Recovery Rockstar.